and ice cold brew. Chug it all quick, you won't itch your lips. Feel the happiness flow through. Sip, sip, all the drink in the cup. Got to flip it on its top. If you don't miss, it's next on the list. Down the line, no time to stop. Puff, puff, pass it off to the left. Let the haze fill up your lungs. Pick all the sticks and roll it up quick. Seal the paper with your tongue. Pack, pack, pack it all in a bowl as I burn right through the grain. Taking a hit alone is a sin. Evil smile starts to gleam. Pop, pop, all the colors and shapes make my world turn over slow. A pop any pill to make myself chill. Just sit back, enjoy the show. Drop, drop, drop them all in my hand. Give me all that I can hold. Shovel them in to push down the sin. Please don't find my body cold. Flick, flick, all the light as they go. Light my path to happy days. Roll up a twig, a drag on the sick. How I want to spend my days. Beep, beep, what the ATM says. So I'll drive some more on E. Still have a stick to light you up with. Guess I'll put my mind at ease. Put my mind at ease. I put my mind at ease. Just one more time, I put my mind at ease.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Today is day 3 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Today we're going to be starting the Texas Driver Handbook review, and we're going to be going over just a bunch of information. The review, we will not finish it today. Wherever we get to today, we'll pick right up from that position tomorrow. And I'm going to take a few minutes at the end of class today, and I'm going to explain our assignment sheet list. Or actually, I can go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to get this posted up here shortly, and there's going to be a video re-explaining how to do it in case you don't remember how to check it. That's fine. It happens. We hear instructions sometimes. It's like you play a tutorial and like, oh no, how do I do that again? Oh, no. You got to figure it out sometimes. So we want to make it easy. So I'm going to explain it to you today, and then we're also going to post a video on how to check that. And what the assignment sheet list, though, is basically it's our class roster, right? It's a list of our current students. And next to it, there's a column that's got the numbers 1, all the way through 15, and then final exam at the end. Now, sliced in right in between the 5 and the 6, we also have the DPS exam. Because once you've completed days 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you qualify for your very own DPS exam, written exam link. All right, and that's how you take the written test. Okay, once you pass the written test once, you're good to go. Okay, no worries about that. But each time you complete an assignment, one of those numbers will be redacted from the list next to your name. Well, redacted means taken away, taken off, erased, removed, blocked out. All right, so basically, if you have completed assignments 1 and 2 already, because we've had class 1 and 2, right? When we get this posted today, or the assignment sheet list posted today, you're going to go in there, you're going to find your name, and right next to your name, you're going to see 3, 4, 5 DPS exam, 6 all the way through 15, and then final exam. Okay, plain and simple, if you make a submission, we have a record of it, folks. So if we don't have a record of your submission, you haven't done the homework, we need to get it done. If it does not let you submit, like you click to submit and nothing's working out, just reload the page and click it again. Generally takes care of the issue for you. But very simply, folks, when course is done and the 15th day, the only thing remaining on that day, on the final Friday we're going to get together, is going to be a 15 and a final exam. I'm going to post those last 2 items on that day, the last Friday of class, which will be the 3rd Friday we have class together. And then you just got to finish those last 2. Once there is nothing left to your name, you have completed the classroom portion of Teen Driver Education. Now, that's very simple because all you have to do is go in, do your assignments, watch the videos. Okay? It's like any other class. You pay attention, you do the homework. Okay? Most of the homework assignments, very easy. And for the 2 that are massive, we do one of those together. That's what we'll be doing together on Friday. 140 some plus questions, or 138 questions, or something around there. And then the final exam you'll be doing on that one on your own. That's why we only have 15 class sessions, because the final exam does take about 2 hours to get through. Okay, but no worries, folks. Don't let anything bug you. It's a real simple system to use. You just locate your name and make sure that each number is being removed as you've done your assignment. If you complete an assignment and are not given credit for it, please let us know during the live stream, or message the on the Hernandez page. Just go to members chat and just message Hernandez Driving School directly. Please don't try to get me directly, because my computer at home is super lame. And I can only do things regarding assignments while I'm here during the live stream, and I'm doing the live stream. Right? Mr. Sauceda does handle that stuff, but he also doesn't need y'all blowing up his phone with, hey, my assignment, I didn't get credit for it. So just when you have an issue, please let us know through the Hernandez Driving School page. Send a screenshot of the confirmation of the receipt of that assignment, and that's basically it. If you send that, that's proof that you did the assignment. We'll go ahead and redact it from your list. Okay, very simple, very basic, and we'll take a look at it right here at the end of class. I'll take the last couple minutes to do that, but for now, let's go ahead and jump directly into our PowerPoint presentation. No, that ain't it. What happened? Why? Presentation on. It's like Inception. Turn off window capture. Oh, okay, 1 second, my bad. I need to fix something here. There we go. Fixed it. Like magic. Let's see here. Let's do a little bit of resize just so we can make sure we can see everything. And now we're good to go. All right, so Texas Driver's Handbook Review, the Hernandez Driveway. All right, folks. Now, we are at Hernandez Driving School, ID number C2883. That's us. And let's go. Starting question number 1. What is the minimum age at which you can get a Class C driver's license without either driver's education or being a hardship case? 25 years old, right? Even individuals from 18 to 24 require a 6-hour driver's education course to get their license. Many individuals over that age, I've taught, I think the oldest person I've taught was 63. Many people over that age don't have the confidence to pass the DPS written test or know the rules well enough. because sadly that is a failing that made driver's ed required, right? That's why we have to take driver's ed now, all right? So anyone can take it, but people up to the age of 24 are required by law to take some form of driver's education before they can get their driver's license. And you are also required to do that impact video, and that's everybody, even the 18 to 24-year-olds. Right? Now, what is the maximum fine for a first conviction of driving without a license? That is a fine of up to $200. Now, that's the first time. Okay? If they catch you in the same city, if the same police department catches you again within their city, your citation will go up. If they bother to check TLETs and decide, hey, look, they've been fined for this in Bexar County, let's go ahead and up it to $250 because they didn't learn the first time. They have the right to do that as well, folks. And it'll keep going up and keep going up with subsequent violations of that, right? Driving with your permit by yourself is driving without a license, okay? Your permit requires there to be a licensed operator in the front seat paying attention to you. If you don't have that going on, you are driving illegally. So don't think just because it looks like a driver's license, you can get away with it, folks, right? What type of restrictions may be placed on your license? Well, you can have A, with corrective lenses, B, LOFS 21 or over, that means licensed operator in the front seat who's 21 or over. You can also have the F restriction, that means you have to physically be carrying the permit on you at the time of driving. You gotta have it with you. Oh, I forgot it at home. Well, you don't get to drive today, $40 no-show fee because your license did not show up to your driving lesson. It's a bummer. So we need to make sure that when we come to that driving lesson, we've got our appropriate clothing, our appropriate shoes, and our permit and glasses if you need them, right? If your driver's license says you have the Class A restriction, we won't allow you to drive without them. That's your safety, our safety, right? I have a Class A restriction, therefore when I teach driver's ed, I wear my glasses. When I drive, I wear my glasses. Okay? Other restrictions may be placed on your license, but many of those are for medical reasons. Some individuals need a co-pilot because of like they're deaf. They just need a co-pilot and they're good to go. Just someone to alert them to sirens and stuff that they may not be able to see yet. Right? Now, what action should you take if you fail to receive the renewal notice card reminding you that your driver's license is about to expire? If you do not receive this notice, it doesn't matter. Whose license is it? It's yours. Therefore, it is your responsibility to make sure that your license does not expire. If your license does expire, you may have to take another vision check, another driving test, before you can get your license again. Do you want to have to go through that hassle? Of course not. So your driver's license, one of those things that you have to keep track of. The great thing is that it expires on a very special day, so it's very easy to remember. When it does, all you have to do is remember the year and get that thing renewed before your birthday. That's it. Right. Now, describe the equipment required on passenger cars by state law. Well, brakes, lights, and a bunch of other stuff. Fortunately, you do not need to memorize this information, but what you do need to know, what is important to you, is that if any of these are not up to like the state regulations, the minimum code, then your vehicle will fail inspection. Because these are the items that are checked when your vehicle is inspected annually. So if something needs to be fixed, it needs to be fixed. Okay? Before you can get that sticker and continue driving the vehicle, your vehicle has to be brought back up to code. Lots of people don't realize that, a vehicle not being up to code is the reason that you fail, but that's what it is. Your vehicle is lacking something that the state requires to be fully functional. And unfortunately, that also means that when individuals pay to get that inspection passed, their vehicle could potentially be a hazard to the other drivers because things aren't working. Okay? Number 6, describe the types of equipment which Texas state law specifically forbids on passenger cars driven within the state. Well, you can't have a red light showing from the front of your vehicle except for emergency vehicles. You can't have a bell, siren, or exhaust whistle except for emergency vehicle. This is so they don't mistake you for an emergency vehicle. Woo! Pull over! You're too cute, girl. Let's go. Yeah, no, you can't be doing that, so you can't have a siren, you can't have them lights going on. All right? That's why. Because you may get preferential treatment in traffic. You could definitely abuse that. Therefore, the state says, nope, you just can't have it. If you do have this stuff, well, then you can get a ticket, a citation, or maybe even have your car impounded. All right. You may also not have a muffler cutout. And there's a couple big reasons why not to have one. A, they're bad for the environment. And now if you don't know what a muffler cutout is that there are individuals that would rather have a louder, faster car than a planet we can live on. So they cut a hole in their muffler. Another way to do this, so it seems less shady, is you take the muffler that your vehicle's supposed to have and you put a smaller one. You reach the exact same effect. Your car creates much more noise and much more pollution. Right? But the problem is all that noise draws the attention of not only, all the people you want it to, but the police. And your neighbors will hate you. If you have a car that wakes the entire neighborhood up every time you come home at 2 a.m., your neighbors will plot against you and you will never be invited to local get-togethers. It just happens. No, I had some neighbors very passionately tell me that if I needed to go somewhere at 3 o'clock in the morning and come back at 3:30, that I needed to find somewhere a little further away from the apartments to park because I was waking people up. And this was a couple people who were pretty upset because my car was loud. Right? So do not do that. And that was just because my car was loud. That wasn't because I was missing any equipment. It was just an already loud car. Well, people want it to be louder. I don't know why. All right, but describe the types of equipment which Texas state law specifically forbids. Well, you also may not have anything extending more than 3 inches beyond the left side of your vehicle, or 6 inches beyond the right side of your vehicle. Right? Why is this? This is to prevent you from damaging vehicles from coming from the left side, or potentially hitting pedestrians on the right side. Okay? So you get 3 inches on the left because cars are on that side, and you get 6 inches because you should have, in theory, the shoulder of the road and a sidewalk before anything that you could potentially damage, right? And that is why sometimes you see those spoilers on the cars and it's longer on one side than it is to the other, because they're just staying within, they want the biggest spoiler they can, and they're staying within state regulations. It's kind of funny looking though. But yeah, folks, so they don't want you hitting opposing traffic, so they only give you 3 inches on the left. Okay, on the right side is the shoulder, so they allow you the 6 inches. Okay, you may not have a radar interference device designed, manufactured, used, or intended to be used to interfere with, scramble, disrupt, or cause malfunction in a radar laser device, used to measure a vehicle's speed. So what does that mean? That means you cannot have a little thing that prevents the cops from being able to check your speed. Now, back in the 1980s, when these things came out, and my mother was law enforcement back then, and or when they got super popular, I should say, in the 80s, because I think they were invented in the late 70s. But in the 80s, when they got super popular, and my mother was in law enforcement back then, I got to hear a lot of conversations about this, and I also got to see the way radar devices transformed over the years as for the way they were operated and the way they functioned themselves. All right, radar used to be an on system. You turn it on, you aim it at a road, and you wait for a car to come by. Okay. Well, this device would automatically guarantee that the radar device would not function. However, after a while, they figured out, hey, these people have these things. So now what they do is they visually check. Hey, look, this person looks like they're speeding. Check their speed. And now they aim individually at you and bip. No reading, bip, no reading, bip, no reading, get them. Because once they've got 3 no readings, twice, is rare, but a possibility if there's nothing going on hinky. 3 times being blocked and no reading, and something is happening to prevent them from being able to get your speed. Whether it's that guy in California that bought paint for the B-2 bomber, painted his car, and was told he had to repaint the vehicle, $500,000 paint job, and he had to repaint it because he was no longer detectable by radar devices. True story, big waste of money, right? So now they get you. Okay? You can have a device that detects radar. However, having a device that detects radar, if you slow down right after they hit you with it, they'll still pull you over to give you a warning. But while one officer's talking to you, his partner's going to be in the back, and then they're going to go bip on your car, and then the little dee-dee-dee-dee that warned you that, hey, there's radar in use is going to go off again, and any chance you may have had for a warning, it's just going to fly away like a goose heading to warmer weather. All right, folks? Because now police just sit there and they wait. They wait. They make sure that you're speeding, and then they get you. That way, even if you are using an interference device, they can still get you for speeding. And with cameras and maths, 1.5 feet per mile per hour per second, makes it really easy to determine how fast someone's going, especially if you have digital video that you can slow down and have it show exactly how far a car goes in that 1 second. All right, so there's a lot of reasons not to use this stuff, so just don't. All right, now how should you react when a traffic officer tells you to do something which is ordinarily considered to be against the law? Now, this isn't a cop handing you a J and saying spark up. This isn't, like a undercover officer, soliciting you, or you solicit, or asking you for, do something illegal, crazy, something dumb. No. What this is very simple. It's if you are driving on the road and a law enforcement officer, okay, you're approaching a green light and there's a police officer in the intersection, right? And they're holding up their palm to tell you to stop. Okay, the light is green, what do? Well, it's illegal to stop right there where there's a green light. That's obstructing traffic. But because the officer told you to stop, you must stop. Because the stop sign we stop, the red light we stop, the blinking red light we stop, but the officer is the only one of those that cannot be contradicted and that we have to stop for 100% of the time. Because an officer can tell you to run through a red light. They can tell you to roll through a stop sign. They can tell you to pass a red blinking light, but nothing can tell you to ignore the officer. Okay? Nothing. Because a human being is putting their life on the line by standing in the roadway for the purposes of conducting traffic. Therefore, we give them respect and we follow their instructions, because the law states we must obey law enforcement officers, even if they tell you to do something which is ordinarily considered against. And it's not specifically the law, it's the vehicle code. Okay? It's specifically talking about on the road stuff. Okay? Now, how should you react when an officer pulls you over? Now, we have a little program that we're going to go through. I just want to give you a quick rundown because I do have roughly 20 years experience dealing with the police department since I was about 4 years old to about the age of 25, or about 5 to 25, somewhere in there. I can give you a perspective on how to deal with officers from someone that's dealt with them on a personal level and, on a standard civilian getting pulled over level. Okay? So, number one, it's not personal. It's absolutely not personal. This is like the guy at McDonald's going, "Welcome to McDonald's, may I take your order?" Okay? When you get pulled over, it's just a person doing the job they were hired to do. Okay? So instead of being upset, instead of being disrespectful, which unfortunately a lot of people tend to do, thinking that they have the right to do so, you do have the right to do and say whatever you want. It could lead you to going to jail, but you have the right to do what you want, as long as it's not illegal. Problem is that so many people are being rude to officers and arguing with officers, and that can cross the line into illegality very quickly. All right. So what I suggest everyone does, now for those of you that have already gone out into the workforce, those of you that have already gotten yourself your first part-time job and had a job interview, this is kind of like what happens at the job interview, right? Okay, this is Steve. You've been listening to me for a couple days. You know how I speak. You know how I intone. You know how I behave, right? And now I'm at a job interview, and the interviewer asked me, "Why do you want to work with our company?" And then, of course, I'm going to go directly to my fake bitch. I'm going to go to that politest, best version of me, like that version of me that is so sterile they're fake, because I want to put off a professional attitude. So, boom. Well, the reason that I would like to work with your company is I'm very dedicated to assisting individuals, and I am devoutly driven to helping people, and your job offers me the perfect opportunity for that. Okay, that is a very wonderful sort of answer that you may want to give at a job interview. But it's bullfunky. Why do I want the job? Because y'all pay money. I need money. I have bills. I got kids. We got to keep food in the fridge. If I don't buy a new video game every few months, the kids go crazy. All right? That's why I want that job. But see, I don't go to that person. I don't be me when I'm dealing with an officer. I be the me that I turn into during a job interview. Why? Because it needs to remain professional. You get pulled over? Well, good evening, officer. How may I assist you today? Do you know why I pulled you over? If you do know why you were pulled over, if you think you know, instead of saying, "I was speeding," boom, you just admitted guilt. You were now guilty of speeding. Okay, they can give you the general lousy ticket for driving faster than is safe is prudent for existing conditions. That one doesn't require a specific anything, and boom. Right? So instead of doing that, officer, was I perhaps driving too fast? Officer, did I perhaps forget my turn signal? Officer, did I not signal for long enough? Officer, was I weaving a little bit in my lane? Don't admit to anything, but take ownership. Ask him if you think you know what it is. Ask him if it was that. And then, I'm very sorry about that, officer. How may I assist you today? Now, I'm doing this with my hands down, but in all reality, your hands are going to be up here on the steering wheel when you're doing all of this, because you want to make sure your hands stay seen. All right? And then the other thing you want to do, other than remain professional and be courteous, and I'm not talking about butt kissing. We don't need to tell them how awesome they are, how much we respect law enforcement. We just treat them like a professional doing their job. And the other thing we need to do is we need to play the consent game. Now, hopefully you've had some kind of conversation about consent when it comes to interpersonal relationships and touching, kissing, hugging, holding hands, whatever. You know, before you commit to any action with an individual that may be considered as any kind of harassment, we ask permission. Hey, can I give you a hug? No? Okay. All right. Hey, can I give you a hug? Yes? Oh, thank you. Hug. All right. Okay. That's consent. So with a law enforcement officer, before you do anything, you obtain consent. May I please see your license and registration, sir? Why, yes, officer. I'd be more than happy to show them to you, but may I please reach over with my right hand into the glove box and remove my registration so I can show that to you, and then I'll be reaching into my back pocket with my right hand to get my driver's license. All right, go ahead. So I reach in, and then when you grab stuff, you want to come out, and you want to be holding it like it's covered in poo. Now, why do we do this? Because even a cell phone grabbed the wrong way quickly could appear to be a gun. And if you don't think there are guns that are deceptive, my little brother one Christmas asked me if I wanted this little 22 that came with a wallet, and you couldn't tell it was a gun wallet, but it had a little hole in the back to let you access the trigger. And I was like, dude, I don't want no 22. He's like, it comes in 38. All right, a 38 at close range would be enough to kill an officer. Okay, so anything you reach for will and can be perceived as a gun. All right, so make sure consent, and then when you obtain consent, anything you handle around the officer, handle it like it's covered in poo. All right, now, having said that, those are the basics. That's the only thing I wanted to add to this, because it does really add to the way we understand how we need to deal with law enforcement. Because at the end of the day, folks, they're Spider-Man, they're Peter Parker, they're Iron Man, they're Captain America. They're local, hometown heroes. They're people that want to do good for the community. Yes, 1 out of 1,000 people is a douchebag no matter what job you have. Okay? That's a plain and simple fact. But it's the other 999 that these rules are for. If an individual's being a douchebag with you, you hit them extra hard with the politeness, and then you go down to the police department and you report the hell out of them. All right? But we'll get to that here at the end. So, creating safe interaction between citizens and law enforcement. The purpose of this program, the Texas Community Safety Education Act, right? Okay, its purpose and goal, the Community Safety Act of 2017, is to inform drivers and public students, also training members of law enforcement, expectations that each should have during contact between officers and motorists or pedestrians. The goal is to lessen tensions and anxieties that may arise during interactions between officers and citizens during traffic stops and other encounters that could lead to undesired incomes. Why do we do this? So that everybody frickin' behaves. That's why. Because too many people don't. And if you don't believe me, just go onto YouTube and just type in refuse to sign the ticket, and you will see lots of people misbehaving. Right? Now, the educational goals here, the instructional objective, is to interact responsibly with law enforcement officers to provide a safe environment for both public and law enforcement during a traffic stop and other in-person encounters. All right? Make sure that everyone's behaving the right way. All right? Knowledge and skills, the safety and responsibility to show proper behavior actions for civilians during interactions with law enforcement during traffic stops and other in-person encounters. Right? We're trying to teach you what it is that you need to expect and what you need to do when you get pulled over or approached by law enforcement. Why? Why do they do it? Like I said, they're superheroes. I mean, maybe not so super, but they're heroes. They want to be heroes. They want to keep you safe and get you home safely. Now, if you think that being a law enforcement officer is not stressful, not strenuous, I'm going to tell you two quick things about some law enforcement officers. 2 years ago in McAllen, 2 officers responded to a domestic dispute. Domestic dispute is the fancy term for 2 people that live in the household kicking the shit out of each other. Okay? That's a domestic dispute. Okay? And 2 officers showed up for a reported domestic dispute in the city of McAllen. Well, those 2 officers were then gunned down by multiple assailants that were there on an ambush. Okay? They thought they were showing up to stop a husband and wife or a brother and sister from fighting, and instead they were gunned down and killed in the line of duty. Okay? That was 2 years ago, and that's the sort of stress that law enforcement officers have. So if they're a little twitchy, you'll have to forgive me, because not even the Domino's pizza guy or the mailman has life that bad when it comes to, you know, people and their reaction to seeing them arrive late or things like that. All right? And the other thing I want to let you know about is when I was 10 years old, my mother did a traffic stop. Just a regular thing. Guy was driving, and when he went to stop, his brake lights didn't come on, and my mom was pulled him over to let him know, hey, your brake lights aren't working. But when she walks up to him, like, sir, may I please see your license and registration? And she holds her hand out for him, and she looks down at his face, and then my mother did the dumbest thing possible that an officer can do when they recognize somebody dangerous. She made a face. She made an, oh, like, it's you face. So he grabbed her arm that was extended requesting the ID and put his car back into gear and drove off. Or turned his car on, put it back into gear and drove off. Now, because he grabbed the hand on the side where her sidearm was, her first impulse was to reach for it with the other hand, and she wasn't able to get to it in the time it took him to go, ah! So she was drugged 150 yards through a dirt field, because he didn't even take the roadway, he just cut to get lost. And she was drugged 150 yards by her arm, and how he held on to her, I don't know. I really don't. But the number 2 most wanted man in America at the time attempted to kill my mother. And nearly did so. Took her 8 surgeries to recover, and led to some of the worst days of my life because she wasn't able to take care of me. Well, I mean, she never really did, but she thought that I needed more support than what her being laid up gave me, and I really didn't, because I'd been surviving with less since before. But because of that, she shipped me off to go live with someone that was very angry that I was living with them, and they took it out on me. Now, I gave you that little part because later on we'll talk about drugs and alcohol, and it'll help you understand better why I was I easily became an alcoholic for a little bit. But that's the thing, folks. That's a regular day on the job. You know, some days you rescue puppies out of storm drains, some days you escort ducks across the street, some days 27 people shoot at you. You know, just another day at the office, right? So when they say they want to get you home safely, understand that that's exactly what they want. They want you and them to make it home safe and sound. All right. So reasons for traffic stops: well, you can have traffic violations, speeding, tailgating, weaving in your lane, improper turns, unsafe passing, or being unbuckled. Texas is a click it or ticket state. Anyone in your vehicle not wearing the seatbelt can get themselves and the driver a ticket. That's double dipping, but they do it. And then, of course, using your cell phone, texting, surfing the internet, being on Insta, watching YouTube while driving is illegal. Anyone under the age of 18 is strictly prohibited from even interacting with a cell phone while driving. And driving means the car is on, you're in the driver's seat. Okay? Even if it's in a parking lot, you're still driving. Car is on, you're in a driver's seat. You want to use your phone, you park, and you turn the car off. Okay? Once you are 18 with 6 months driving experience, you may use hands-free Bluetooth technology only. Lots of people don't get this because they mistake a right with a privilege. We'll talk about this a lot more later. All right? Come on, buddy. Next page. There we go. All right. So, other reasons they may pull you over: you could be having vehicle malfunctions, tail lights out, headlights out, low tires, brake lights out. Any of these is putting you in additional danger. A low tire, the tire could pop. If one of your lights is out, a car could hit you. So they're doing you a favor by pulling you over on this situation. If you did not know the situation existed, let them know, officer, I did not know that. I will go directly to a place and I will go get that bulb replaced. I will go get some air in that tire. Thank you for letting me know. Right? Maybe you got some state requirement issues. You know, your registration's expired or your license plate's missing. Well, your registration's expired. That's on you. You're supposed to renew that once a year. And that, like renewing your driver's license, is your job to do. You need to get it done. No one else is going to do it for you. Now, the missing license plate is another matter, though. Missing license plate means your license plate fell off or was stolen. You can take that opportunity to file a police report with that very officer that pulled you over, an information report, to let him know that you believe your license plates may have been stolen and you don't currently have them. You need to get them replaced because clearly he's the one that spotted they weren't on your car. If someone steals your license plates, the number one thing they're going to do with them is commit a crime in a vehicle that looks deceptively like yours. If you drive a white Ford Focus and your license plates go missing, chances are a white Ford Focus is fixing to commit a crime and they want the cops to find your house, not theirs. That's why they put on those lovely little fake license plates, or that's somebody else's license plate. But if you file a report saying, hey, they stole my plate because the cop pulled you over, they did you a favor. Yes, they inconvenienced you, but getting swatted, having the police break down your door, aim guns at everyone in the home, handcuff everyone, drag y'all down to the police department and get stuff sorted out is way worse than missing 15 minutes of your day because you got pulled over because your license plates were missing and you had to file a report. Just saying. All right. Next. Now, other reasons, right? You fit the description of a person who committed a crime. Hispanic male between 5'2" and 6 foot tall. That's basically everyone you know. Okay. Every Hispanic male you know is generally in that range. So that means they could have a lousy description, and yeah, I would fall into that description. So would Gabriel Iglesias. Hey, because he's 5'2". All right. So just because someone gave a lousy description, you may be getting pulled over. Don't worry about it. If you didn't do anything, you're not going to get arrested. All right. If your vehicle fits the description of one used in a crime, well, if your license plate was stolen, like in the previous example, very well could be. Okay. They can pull you over for safe driving. I was pulled over once. I didn't realize it was for safe driving until like some retrospect and teaching this class. But yeah, he asked me why I was using hand signals. I was like, well, because my lights went out and I need to use hand signals because I'm required by law to signal. And he's like, okay, sir, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Have a great day. You just safe driving. It's the only thing I can guess, right? I've seen somebody else get pulled over for safe driving. Okay. It does happen. Not often, but it does happen. All right. And then your vehicle was used in and or you committed a crime. Okay. If you break the law, your driver's license has your address, your vehicle registered to your name is linked to your driver's license, that information will come up and be available to law enforcement. Okay. When they run your name, when they find you, they'll find any vehicles registered to you. Okay. So they can pull you over if they're looking specifically for you. Or let's say you lend your buddy your car, they go down to the gas station, they go buy a pack of cigarettes, they come back with cigarettes, beer, and a whole bunch of like snacks. Well, they paid for 2 of those things and shoplifted the rest. Well, your vehicle was used in a crime. And so they would have reason to pull you over because those crimes do get reported. But don't get upset because it wasn't you. Right. All right. Now, reactions to being stopped. You can have any emotion on this, all right? Fearful, targeted, nervous, angry, frustrated, surprised, anxious, edgy, triggered, whatever you want to call it, whatever you may feel. Okay, the first time I got pulled over, I went hysterical. I started laughing ridiculously because the officer pulled her gun on me because I forgot to turn my car off. True story. And I just laughed real hard and like, driver, shut off the engine. I started laughing. I said, yes, officer. And I called her by name and what the when I got the car off and I was laughing and she walked up and, damn it, Steve! And she took off her police hat and hit me with it. You scared me! Thought you were going to try to run me over. I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I've never been pulled over before. And I just couldn't stop laughing. He's like, Steve, are you high? I'm like, no, this is just really funny because I was like 3 blocks away from home. Okay, traffic stops may be an emotional event for you, but for the officer, it's welcome to McDonald's. What may I take your order? It's nothing complicated. It's nothing personal. It's just their job. All right. Now, the law: the driver must immediately stop when approached by an emergency or authorized emergency vehicle. Now, immediately is kind of a vague term, or it should be treated as kind of a vague term in this. But we'll get into that here in a minute. Now, you will be arrested if you do not stop. If you stop in an unsafe location, bridge or high traffic highway, an officer may direct you to pull over using that little speaker, the bullhorn on their vehicle, to move to a safer location. So when they say immediately stop, instead what you should do is put on your emergency signals, slow down if the area that you're in is not safe to pull over in, and then lead the officer at a speed limit or at a speed lower than the limit to somewhere safe nearby. Okay, so immediately means as soon as you're in a safe location. Okay? But you must follow the officer's directions. Now, proper actions and responsibilities: slow down. Park your vehicle to the right side of the road and to the right of the main traffic lane. Park on the right shoulder if it's available. Okay? Or you may park on a well-lit nearby side street, parking lot, or anywhere away from high volume traffic if a shoulder is unavailable. Okay? Law enforcement does not want to be standing in the road and get hit by a car. So they may ask you to move, or you may decide, hey, it's not safe here, I'm going to move and I'm going to go park. Oh, look, there's a Circle K, there's a Stripes, there's a Walmart, there's an H-E-B, there's a plaza of some variety, there's a Boost Mobile. I'm going to go to that parking lot over there. Okay? And you can do that, folks. Right? You're required to place the vehicle into the park position, set your emergency brake, and turn the engine off. This is so law enforcement knows you're not going to rapidly attempt to flee. All right. You activate your hazard warning lights to indicate to the other drivers that you are in the vehicle while it is pulled over on the side of the road. Okay. Hazard lights activate all 4 turn signals at once. Okay. If it's at night, turn on the interior dome light. If it's during the day and you got some heavy old tint, open up them windows. Get visible. Remain in the car. Lower the driver's side. Lower all the windows if they're super tinted though. Keep both hands clearly in sight on the top of the steering wheel. That's what we talked about, right? Wait for a law enforcement officer to give you instructions. They're going to ask you questions, and then they're going to ask you for stuff. All right? He may approach you from either side of the vehicle. Okay? Make sure you keep your hands empty. You should have nothing in your hands, including your cell phone. Right? If you're paranoid and you want to record the encounter, you can grab your cell phone, turn on the camera, put it in the cup holder, and just forget about it. Don't be messing with it. Don't put it in the cop's face. All right? Anyone having a cell phone jam, saying, and can you repeat that, please? Anyone's going to find that irritating, having a phone jammed in their face. All right? So just don't be doing that. All right? Anything in your hands may appear to be a handgun to an officer. Do not try to grab stuff before the officer gets there. When they see you moving quickly as they approach, that's referred to as furtive movement. Furtive movement takes his oh crap-o-meter and sets it up to a 5. Because half the time when there's furtive movement, the individual's trying to hide a weapon, hide drugs, hide alcohol, hide something, and so, they become more suspicious. So don't just wait for them to show up and then do what you need to do, folks. All right? What else? All right, for drivers and passengers, do not reach, dig, or search for your license or insurance documents before or while an officer is approaching. There's that furtive movement. Tell the officer if you are transporting any type of weapon and keep both hands on top of the steering wheel. I had a concealed handgun license. You don't need one anymore to have a weapon with you in the state of Texas. So if I get pulled over next and I've got my gun on me, first words out of my mouth are going to be, officer. There's a 9mm on the door panel right here at the driver's side door, and the ammunition's on the back seat or the back pocket on the passenger front seat, because that's how I roll when I've got my sidearm with me, right? Because I do not want that to be a surprise that he discovers later and frightens him. I would not like to accidentally be shot. All right. Now, drivers who transport handguns in their vehicles are encouraged to keep them in a separate location from the license and insurance documentation. Okay? The place that I keep my gun is for ready access, but mostly it's so that a peace officer can open the door, point a gun at me, grab my gun, put it away, and then put their gun away, and everyone's going to feel comfortable once that situation's done. Because as long as his trigger's on the side of the gun, not on the trigger itself, I'm in no danger of getting shot. Trigger discipline saves lives. All right? Treat every gun like it's loaded, folks. Before reaching into your glove box or under the seat to receive proof of insurance or your driver's license, inform the officer where the items are located, and follow the officer's direction. Remember, get consent before you do anything. Okay, if you're stopped for a violation of the law, the law officer or the law enforcement officer may ask you to exit for any reason. If you are asked to exit the vehicle, do so safely. Check for traffic, make sure everything's good, and get out when you are safely able to do so. Okay. Law enforcement officers, drivers, and passengers should respond with courtesy during traffic stops and other officer-citizen interactions. That's why that job interview voice. That's why that job interview attitude, right? Keep it professional, right? Drivers and passengers should not exit the vehicle unless asked to do so. Exiting your vehicle may be perceived as an aggressive behavior and a threat to the officer's safety, right? If you've ever seen that movie, I think it was Meet the Fockers, where Greg takes like the in-laws and them to go meet the parents, and they all get out of the car, and that little bitty cop just got paranoid, freaked out, and arrested 3 people. It happens because, well, most of the time when people get out of a vehicle and approach an officer, it's not because they want to try to explain, it's because they want to try to brutalize, right? Not most of the time, but enough that they're going to be gun shy about it, right? Now, advise passengers to remain in the car unless other instructions are given by law enforcement officer. Okay? If the police say everyone needs to get out the car, then everyone needs to get out the car. If someone starts arguing, that's a bad thing. So you tell people in your car, this is my car. If you ever want to ride in it again, you listen to the police, you do what they say, and you behave. All right? Advise the passengers to behave and be courteous to the officer. If you have the funny guy in the car, and everyone knows a funny guy. Everyone knows a funny guy or funny gal. Well, if you've got the funny guy or funny gal in your car and they're just adamant that they want to be obnoxious during the traffic stop, you let them know that you're going to leave them right there if they even think about it. That you're just going to be like, officer, I will not ride with this person anymore. They did not treat you with respect. I'm going to ditch them here, and their parents are going to have to come pick them up. All right? Because they shouldn't be joking around with it. Okay, I once had a buddy make a stupid joke in front of an officer on a routine traffic stop, and because of that, we missed all the trailers before a movie and the first 10 minutes of the very first Jurassic Park. And for us, that was epic upsetness because we've been waiting our whole lives for a movie with awesome dinosaurs. All right. Once the traffic stop's over, give the appropriate signals. If you fail to signal and you take off, the officer can get in the car, pull you back over, give you another ticket for failure to signal. I saw that happen. And then the second time she left, she peeled out, threw rocks, put a chip in the windshield of the unit, and now she damaged police property, got pulled over again. And he's like, listen, I could arrest you for this, but I'm just going to give you another ticket. You can't be doing that. You damaged the unit. At which point she got belligerent and wound up getting herself arrested, right? But because she didn't have the proper attitude from the get-go, all that happened, all right? Then you safely return to the proper lane of traffic when released by a law enforcement officer. Okay? When the officer releases you, the officer will wait for you to move your vehicle first. This is because once their lights come on, their video camera on their vehicle starts recording, okay? And they want to make sure that they have a beginning to the interaction and a closing to the interaction, you driving away. Why? Because so many people make claims about what happens between them and law enforcement officers to try to get out of citations. So they keep and maintain video evidence of the entire interaction, right? That keeps them honest and keeps you honest, right? Likewise, if they do something super shady, something super terrible, and they give you a ticket, make sure you request that the video of the interaction be reviewed as evidence, and then the officer will get in deep trouble for what they did, all right? Now, refrain from arguing the charge during the traffic stop or detention, okay? Signing a ticket is not an admission of guilt. Guilt is determined by a judge or a jury of peers if you believe that you are innocent of the charge, all right? What signing the ticket does simply says, I need to appear at court, this specific court, on this specific day, at this specific time. That's all signing the ticket says, all right? If you refuse to sign the ticket, the next thing you are going to hear the officer say is, you have the right to remain silent. Now, once he starts talking about the rights that you have, you're under arrest, and there's no takesy-backsies on that, all right? Once you have the right is out of their mouth, okay, he or she can't take that back. They have already started to arrest you. Okay? By law, they're required to finish Mirandizing you and haul you off. So do not refuse to sign the ticket. As I said, if you'd like to know what happens when you refuse to sign the ticket, just go to Google, go to YouTube, refuse to sign the ticket. You will watch some videos on there that will blow your mind. And I am a citizen of the world. If you watch that video, the officer's absolutely right. That would create anarchy. Those rules that she thought existed were bunk, right? Not a thing, right? Now, the role of law enforcement is to provide assistance to Texas citizens, enforce state's traffic laws, and ensure you make it home safely, and law enforcement makes it home safely. Make sure everybody gets it home safe and sound. That's their gig. That's their job. Gotta respect that, right? A lot of times we have negative views of law enforcement because of issues that have happened with people in our family, but the real thing is that, you know, doesn't matter how much someone hates the police, when their house is being robbed, that's the first person they get called. Because at the end of the day, even the people that do not like the police know that they can generally count on them in the moment, all right? So just remember that, and remember that they're not trying to be jerks, all right? You have the right to remain silent except for truthfully identifying yourself. You have the right to have you have the right to refuse to have your vehicle searched, right? But if you're not hiding anything, just let them check it. It takes like 30 seconds. If they take longer than that, then, you know, you can be like, listen, I've shown you my trunk, I've shown you the back seat. I am not consenting to any further searching of my vehicle. If you feel that they're just nitpicking, trying to find something, and you know there's nothing going on, right? Because if an officer has reason to believe that the vehicle contains evidence of a crime, the vehicle can be searched without your consent, all right? But as long as you've got nothing to hide, go along with it, all right? If an officer suspects a weapon, the officer may conduct a pat-down search. Here's one caveat to that, though. One special rule that applies to the pat-down search. An individual designated male at birth who has not transitioned must be searched by a designated male at birth, not transitioned. Okay? And the reason I point that out, and it's not about the difference between designated female at birth or anything, it's the matter of, are you fully transitioned to another gender? Do you still have the original bits? Yes, then you will be searched by someone of your original gender. If you don't, then you will be searched by someone of your new gender, all right? But the law says you have to be searched by an individual of the same gender. So if you're transitioning, if that's your choice, or if you know someone that's transitioning, no, awesome, more power to them. I'm glad they get to be who they want to be, who they should have been. But until they're done, men will search people designated male at birth that are still not fully transitioned, and women will search individuals designated female at birth that are not fully transitioned. That's how it works. So if a man tries to frisk you, ladies, no. Get a female officer out here, please. Gentlemen, if a woman tries to frisk you, no. Please get a male officer out here. All right? The last thing that you need to do is get in trouble for some sexual harassment stuff, or them. So it needs to stay within the gender. All right. Now, you are required to show your driver's license if it's requested. If you do not show your driver's license, you give the officer your name. Not just that, though, because there are plenty of people with your name. Your address. Not just that, though, because there are a few people at your address. You must also provide your date of birth. These 3 facts will pull up your driving record. Now, what I recommend to everyone, once you're 18, memorize, or before you turn 18, memorize your driver's license number. Because once you have a regular driver's license, if you forget it at home, providing that number to law enforcement will count as proof of driver's license. And they'll be able to pull up your record with that simple number. Let's see. It's 9 numbers long, too. Not even hard. All right. Now, if it is an offense if you could provide a false or fictitious... I have a slight stutter. I'm sorry, folks. It is an offense if you give a false or fictitious name. There we go. Came out. All right. Now, if you feel unsafe, if you feel that it is unsafe to stop in that area, or if you have concerns that it's not a real police officer, you are not required to immediately stop. Slow down, put on your emergencies, call 911. Tell them who you are, where you are, what's happening against you, or what's happening to you, and they will confirm if it's a real law enforcement officer. If it's not, they'll direct you somewhere safe. Go to a well-lit parking lot, something like that. Or if they're like, yeah, that is not a police officer, please drive directly to the police department. Okay. They could tell you something like that. All right. But if they tell you it is an officer, they're also going to let the officer know, hey, this person's checking to make sure that you are a real officer. You're apparently in an unmarked unit. And then the officer calms down because you're no longer attempting to flee. You're no longer taking a long time to pull over. Now you're just being safe and confirming that everything's okay. Okay. But you turn on your hazards, you drive slowly below the speed limit, and let them see that you are intending to comply. All right. Drive to a well-lit, populated place to stop. All right, because sometimes we're just not comfortable getting pulled over out in the middle of frickin' nowhere. We want other people around to witness in case, the horror movies are true. Right? Now, evading arrest or detention, it is an offense to intentionally flee from a law enforcement officer, subject to higher penalties if using a vehicle or watercraft to flee and evade arrest and you hurt or kill someone. Okay? If you kill someone while running from the police, you will be charged as hard as they can because you did that on purpose because you were trying to get away from the police. All right, plain and simple, folks, if you're getting pulled over and you know you're going to go to jail, well, you'll probably wind up going to jail 3 to 4 times longer if you run away. So, don't. Okay? Now, should you need to file a complaint or a compliment, this is what you would need. A sworn affidavit. An affidavit is a piece of paper where you pinky swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And if you lie on it, that's a crime. Right? Now, the importance of this is big because when someone does something freaking terrible to you, this is how you file the complaint. This is how you let the department know. Yes, they don't always respond the first time someone complains because, it's your word against theirs sometimes. If the video evidence backs you up, then the officer will get in trouble or will get fired. All right? Doesn't always happen, unfortunately, because, politics, things like that. However, once an individual has repeated complaints against them, law enforcement can't look at that anymore. You can't be an officer and have 10 complaints against you for sexual harassment. It does not fly. All they got to do is call the media about that, and everyone and their mom will join the rally to get that person fired. Now, the other side of the coin is if you have an experience with a law enforcement officer and they're amazing, they gave you a ticket and you still liked them at the end of the dang traffic stop. You're like, oh, you're so likable. All right, thank you for my ticket, officer. You have a good day. Nice to meet you. That sort of person, go and let them know you had a good experience. Why? Because just like we need to tell them when the bad person does something bad to get the trash taken out, we need to tell them when someone awesome does a good job so that the awesome people get promotions, right? Okay. So to file a complaint or compliment, you follow agency guidelines for submitting complaints and compliments. Okay. The information you need to file is on your ticket. Everything is. Okay. That's it. All right. And now here's your little video, which we're going to skip. Sorry about that. All right. So moving on. Question number 9. Once the brakes have been applied, about how many feet does a car which was going 70 miles an hour travel before it comes to a stop? Well, there's the 70, right? So this is how it works. First, you see the incident, your brain processes, realizes that it's a problem, and now your foot hits the brakes. That takes about 154 feet going 70 miles an hour, or 1.5 seconds roughly. Okay? And then takes another 233 feet from the moment you've hit the brakes to your vehicle coming to a stop, for a grand total of 387 feet. Okay. Now, at 70 miles an hour, it takes 387 feet to stop. At 60 miles an hour, it only takes 303 feet to stop. All right, that's 101 yards or a football field. At 70 miles an hour, you can add both end zones, the paparazzi, and the cheerleaders. Right. So that is a massive distance. That is a long way to travel before your vehicle stops. Right, 100 yards. Running backs get applauded when they run for 100 yards in a game. Receivers that run for 100 yards in every single game, definitely get better contracts when it's time for renewal. Okay, 100 yards is a big distance, even when you're talking about yards being normal distances. All right. Now think about how cars follow each other on the expressway. Slap, Boom, like this. See this all the time. I even see this with 18-wheelers, and that upsets me in a very special way because those 18-wheeler drivers are aware of the danger that they pose to other motorists, and they still do this nonsense. All right? Look, they just drive right behind each other. Right? Now, what happens when the red car messes up? Do they take care of their car? Do they hit a bump? Does their axle about to snap because they haven't done anything on it? You know, have they not ever changed their oil and their engine's about to just die and their car's going to suddenly slow down 30 miles an hour? You don't know. But when you're following this closely, the only thing you can do is put your hands, or your life, in their hands. Now, they don't give you this chart for the DPS written test, but they only ask you about 2 specific speeds. And these 2 speeds are special for very different reasons. They ask you about going 20, and they ask you about going 50. Now, why 20? Well, 20 is when your brakes work the best, at 20 miles an hour or less. Why? Because this was the original speed that most cars were intended to be driving. I mean, that was an awesome improvement from a horse that could do the same speed for 15, 20 minutes. Well, now we can just drive 20 miles an hour for a couple hours. Awesome. Well, since the design on brakes hasn't fundamentally changed too much, I mean, it's still basically the same system, the brakes still work incredibly well at that speed. So at 20 miles an hour, it takes you 44 feet to see, think, respond, and hit the brakes. And then once the brakes have been hit, it only takes 19 feet to stop, for a grand total of 63 feet. Now, on the DPS exam, they can ask you this question in a variety of ways, right? So what I recommend for going 20 miles an hour, you remember the equation. When you're going 20, it takes you 44 plus 19 braking distance for a total of 63 feet to stop, okay? It takes you 44 feet response time plus 19 feet braking distance for a total of 63 feet to stop. You may want to write this one down if you got some paper handy, because those 3 numbers right there, 44, 19, 63, the question can be asked to you in a way where either one of those would be the right answer. But they're specifically talking about going 20 miles an hour. Now, the reason going 50 miles an hour is important, when first and foremost 50, they only ask about the 229. They don't ask the other 2 numbers, they just ask for the 229. But the reason that it's important is very clear when we look at 40 and 60. When you look at 40, it takes you 88 feet to hit the brakes and 76 feet to stop after you do. And when you're going 60, it takes you 132 feet to hit the brakes and 171 feet to stop. Okay? See, so right there at 50, that's where that flip occurs. That's where it now takes longer to stop than it did to brake. And this is where stopping distance is going to start shooting, because at speeds above 50, the growth is literally exponential for all of this. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at 20 and 40, right? So 20 is half the speed of 40, but the stopping distance after you hit the brakes, now hitting the brakes takes double. Okay, so that makes sense. 20 or 44 and 88, perfect, we're good there. But then we look at 19 and 76. 76 is 4 times, because stopping distance after you apply the brakes is the difference in speed squared. So that means if you're going twice as fast, it takes 4 times to stop after you hit the brakes, right? So if you're going 100 miles an hour, right, it's going to take 476 feet to stop just after you hit the brakes, okay? That's not counting the 220 feet that it's going to take to hit the brake, all right? I just did that math real fast in my head. 476, is that accurate? Probably. Okay, but that's massive, folks. Okay, that's why stopping distance is so important to know, and that's why speed is terrible. That's why they say things like speed kills. Because, hey, I was only going 10 miles an hour faster than the speed limit. Okay, so you're driving down a road, that's the speed limit's 50, and a little kid runs out in front of your car 250 feet away. Okay, you hit the brakes, and you stop well before hitting the child because you were going the speed limit. Well, now let's say you were going 60. Well, little kid runs out 250 feet ahead of you, you slam on the brakes, and that kid panics, freezes, and stays there, as your car just plows through them, turns them into paste, and continues on for another 50 feet. But remember, that was only 10 miles difference. One, you completely stopped before you got even close, and the other one, you went another 50 feet after turning them into chunky salsa. That's why speed kills. That's why speed is so dangerous. That's why speeding is bad. I mean, we can talk about how little it saves you in time on one of the days where we have a lot of time. But I've done the math. If you got paid for every minute you made while speeding 20 miles an hour on every drive that you went, and if you got paid $25 to speed, or for every minute you saved, you wouldn't have enough money to pay 2 speeding tickets for 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. If they paid you for that year. And if you spent every single day, every single time you got in the car for a year, you'd probably pick up 10 or 15 tickets, not just 2. But you're not getting paid for that time, so don't throw your money away on speeding tickets. Now, when is it necessary to stop before proceeding when you overtake a school bus loading or unloading children? Well, you must yield the right-of-way to school buses and always drive with care when you are near a school bus. If you approach a school bus from either direction and the bus is displaying alternately flashing red lights, those red lights that blink, 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 you must stop. Unless there is one reason you don't have to stop. There is something between you and them. Okay, there is a wall between you and their lane. There is a median, a big patch of grass between you and their lane. There's a big, like, elevated paved section that you're not able to drive on, median, okay, separating your lane and theirs. Then there shouldn't be kids running across those areas. Okay, so then you don't have to stop. So if they're on frontage, you're an express, you get to keep going. Right? But if you are on the same lane or in the opposing lane and there's nothing between your lane and theirs, you must stop if you arrive at the bus while it is still loading or unloading kids. Now, in-city driving really has 3 important numbers. Okay? And those 3 important numbers are 15, 20, and 100. Now, 15 and 20 only have one purpose. They're like the circle and the triangle. For the signs, they have one job. All right, so it's not real big. And the 100 is everything else for the in-city stuff. Okay, so when you are within 20 feet of a crosswalk at an intersection, or you may not park within 20 feet of a crosswalk at an intersection. Okay, so 20 feet. 20 feet is the distance that you may be from a crosswalk at an intersection while parked to still allow traffic to smoothly pass. All right? Now, what is the state speed for automobiles in urban districts? Well, first and foremost, what is an urban district? An urban district is very simply within city limits. So if you are driving within city limits and you do not see a speed limit sign, the default speed is 30. If you think it's 40 but do not see a sign that says it's 40, you must drive on until you see a sign that says it's 40. Otherwise, you may be given a speeding ticket, because we do not get to make up the speed limit if we're unsure. Okay, when we're within city limits, the speed you default to, 30 miles an hour. Once you see a speed limit sign that says you may drive faster than that, once you pass the sign, you may speed up. All right, if you see a sign that says 55 and you get going 55 right before you hit that sign and you were in a 30, that's 25 miles an hour over the speed limit, and law enforcement can give you that ticket. I was just speeding up for the sign. You speed up after the sign, not before the sign for speeding up. And when it's time to slow down, you slow down before the sign, not after the sign. Okay. What does a posted speed limit sign of 55 mean? Or I'm sorry, does a posted speed limit of 55 mean that you may drive 55 miles an hour on that highway under all conditions? Absolutely not. The maximum speed is the speed limit, but only under ideal conditions. It's not raining, there isn't a bunch of traffic, the road is good, your tire's good, your vehicle's good, your person is good. You feel great, wide awake, feeling fantastic, and you're driving just fine. You don't have light blinding you, then you may go the speed limit. But if there is anything that is less than ideal, if there is anything that is deterring everything from being perfect, then you slow it down. Okay? And you slow it down for everything that makes it less than perfect. Now, you should never drive on the left half of the roadway when you are within how many feet of an intersection, bridge, or railroad crossing? Well, most of this is in-city stuff, right? Railroad crossings out in the middle of nowhere, very rare. So in city, I told you there were 3 numbers. So this answer is 100 feet. If you are within 100 feet of a bridge, an intersection, or a railroad crossing, you cannot be on the left side of the road. You cannot be attempting to pass another vehicle. You need to be back in your lane. Okay? Now, what should you do if you discover you are in the wrong lane to make a turn as you enter an intersection? Well, you wanted to turn, but you're in the wrong lane? Well, too bad. If you can't get into the proper lane within 1/2 block or at least 100 feet before the intersection, then you continue straight. You stay in the lane that you're already stuck in. You do what that lane requires you to do. It is not cool to just jump over and then try to take that turn. That's how accidents happen, right? Now, when two cars meet at the intersection of a 2-lane road with a 4-lane road, which one must yield the right-of-way? Well, anytime you run into a greater road on the roadway at a 4-way intersection, the right-of-way goes to the greater road, all right? So right here, both cars stop at the same time. Both are going straight. Who gets to go first? Well, the greater road is the 4-lane road. The person on the 4-lane road gets to go first, and they do. Why? Because they are only crossing 2 lanes of traffic in this scenario. Therefore, they'll be done faster, and you'll be able to go sooner. Okay? If you went first, they would have to wait for you. That would take longer, and it would take longer for traffic to move along normally. Okay? This is faster. Okay? Now, this also qualifies for if their road is greater because the condition is better. If they are on a paved road, you are on a dirt road, you always yield the right-of-way to the paved road. All right? If you are on a paved road with 2 lanes, they're on a paved road with 2 lanes, but their speed limit is 50, yours is 30, you yield the right-of-way because, well, quite frankly, the crash that they hit you with is going to be a lot more dangerous than the one you hit them with. Okay? So, purple is on a 4-lane, blue is on a 2-lane. Blue must allow purple to go first. Unpaved road must yield the right-of-way to paved. All right? Now, if both cars stop at the same time and there are the same number of lanes, who goes first? Well, the rule is called the right-of-way for a reason. Because the plain and simple rule is when 2 vehicles arrive at the same time or more, the vehicle the most to the right gets to go first. They have the right-of-way. All right? So purple is to the right of blue, so purple goes first. Flip it around, purple is now to the left of blue, so now blue gets to go first. All right, but here's another great one, folks. If there was a car across from blue, like let's say there was a green car on the top of this, and their path would not interfere with blue, they're either going to turn to their right or they're going to be going straight, then they can take the right-of-way at the same time as blue. That's called sharing the right-of-way. And then if purple had someone across from them, they could share the right-of-way on their turn. This allows traffic to pass faster. As long as you're not interfering with the path of the person that does have the right-of-way, you can share it. Now, if the car was going to turn and they were going to turn in front of the blue to make a left turn, well, then they would have to wait their turn, and that would put them last. Purple would go next, and then that green car would go, right? How many people do you think know this? In the valley? Not enough, right? Now, what can you do? Well, you can also yield the right-of-way. Let someone else go first, all right? So blue can be like, flash my headlights, wave my hand. Should have said that the other way around. But you can do that and let them go. But the right-of-way is kind of like true love, folks. Anyone ever heard that expression? If you love someone, set them free. And if they come back to you, it's meant to be. It's rather poetic and all. But the right-of-way is exactly like that as well. If you give the right-of-way away and they give it right back, well, then you take the right-of-way. Don't sit there and play the game of who's the nicest person in the world. You go, no you, no you, no you, no you. I said you go. No, don't get into that because that is obstruction of traffic. You're causing delay in traffic because neither of you will move even though you have the right of way and they've already expressed they don't want it. All right? You can both get a ticket. So don't do that. Once you give it away, they give it right back. It's meant to be. It's yours. Take your true love and your right of way and move along. Okay? Now, if you are driving and you hear a siren coming, what should you do? Well, yield the right-of-way to police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, and other emergency vehicles sounding a siren bell or flashing red light. If traffic allows, pull to the right edge of the road and slow down. Okay, so for this one, if the road is wide enough for 2 or more lanes of travel in each direction, you move to the rightmost lane and slow down by 20 miles an hour and allow them to pass you. Okay? if the road is not wide enough for 2 or more lanes. If it's just 2 lanes, 1 in each direction, and that's all that you got, then you pull over to the right side of the road, you come to a complete stop, and let the emergency vehicle through. Okay? If the road's wide enough, you can keep moving. If it's not, you gotta stop. Okay? Now, every time I see an emergency vehicle, I tell myself they're on their way to save your grandmother, Steve. Get out of their way. They're saving Welita. Okay? Because why? That's the person that I most cared about in my life. That is the person that like would have made me just like wreck my car to get out of their way if they were going to go save Welita. Now, I don't want y'all to wreck your car getting out of the way, but I want you to have that level of sense of urgency because they're off to save someone's mother, brother, father, sister, daughter, son, house, something, livelihood. We don't know, right? Maybe the doggos are in trouble. If the dog's in trouble, we definitely got to let them get there faster, right? But that's the thing, folks, is we don't know what the emergency is, so we get out of their way as fast as possible so that we're not responsible for them getting delayed help, okay? Now, what do you do if you're in the middle of an intersection trying to turn left and you hear sirens coming? Well, this is kind of an odd one because we haven't gone over what the middle of the intersection situation might be. But if you are waiting in the middle of an intersection to make a left turn, and we'll discuss that a little bit later, probably tomorrow though, and you hear a siren coming, just stay still, don't move, right? Once the emergency vehicle gets through your intersection, even if the light's already changed and you were stuck there while the light was red, before anyone else gets to go, remember, a green light does not mean go. A green light means you may go once the intersection is clear of pedestrians, bicyclists, and other vehicles. Rollerbladers, skateboarders, everybody. Nobody left in the intersection, then you can go. So if you get stuck in the middle of the intersection because of this, you get to go even if the light's red for you. All right? Now, what is the first thing that should be done when a car starts to skid? Well, this is the situation where you fake it till you make it. All right? In the situation that your car starts to skid, do not hit the brakes, do not hit the gas. Why? Because both acceleration and brakes require traction, and skidding is a sudden loss of traction. Neither will work, but what they could do is make the situation worse, cause you to spin out, cause you to tumble, and could result in you dying when it wasn't necessary. Okay? So what do? Take your foot off the accelerator, do not hit the gas. Okay? Steer the vehicle in the direction that you are already sliding, all right? If you've ever been in a car that hit the gas a little too hard in an intersection and it peeled out, for like a second it didn't move, and then you felt that boom, like a little judder, and then the car starts to take off, all right? That is because it lost traction, and that little shudder was where it regained traction. Well, you'll feel almost the exact same thing in this situation. When you feel that, that's when you carefully and cautiously take control of your vehicle, get yourself back into your lane, and if you're already in a situation where you're about to go off-road or crash, control it, minimize the damage, that way you can come to a complete stop and then get back on the roadway safely again, okay? Now, on ice and snow, even the most practiced, cautious driver can lose control and skid. I know I've done it a time or 20, all right? But here in South Texas, that's not the issue, right? Skidding is not primarily caused by ice and snow on the roads in Texas because it's freaking hot. It's so hot. It's wintertime. And it's still barely cold enough to just, make us hate the weather. Not cold enough to actually make ice most of the time. All right? So the only reason for skidding down here is you're going too fast or your tires suck. You need to replace them. All right? Now, at what time of day should your headlights be turned on? Well, headlights must be engaged 30 minutes after sunset and may be turned off 30 minutes before sunrise or anytime you cannot see clearly for 1,000 feet. Okay? Generally, this is highway stuff. Okay? Your headlights come on, you're driving and it's foggy, you can't see, you turn on your headlights, and it's not so much so that you can see better, it's so that you can be seen better by the other drivers. Because when you're driving in fog, when you're driving in rain, when you're driving in snow, the first thing you notice is the other people's headlights. Excuse me, folks. Just changing hydration sources. There we go. Boom. All right. And them's the rules. Now, oddly enough, these are the same hours that you're not allowed to be boating. Probably a big reason there. When it's dark, it's harder to be safe. That's what it comes down to, folks. All right. Now, under what conditions may a driver's license be suspended? Ooh, there's a bunch of these, so let's check it out. Now, driving while intoxicated, driving under the influence, a drug offense. Those may cause a loss of license. Intoxication manslaughter or intoxication assault. Intoxication manslaughter generally does cause a loss of license. Failure to stop and render aid generally does cause a loss of license. Causing the death or injury of anyone while operating a motor vehicle, involuntary manslaughter, you can have your license taken away depending on the situation. Any offense punishable as a felony under the motor vehicle laws of Texas, you can lose your license automatically. In some counties, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit is a felony. In other counties, 30 miles an hour over the speed limit is a felony. Everywhere, 30 miles an hour over the speed limit is a felony. So if you're driving 30 faster than the speed limit and you get pulled over, you could get arrested, charged with a felony, see a little jail time, and lose your license. Don't speed, please. Boating while intoxicated, because your license to drive a car will become a license to rent and drive a boat when you turn 21. Good job. All right, and it doesn't change. You don't get a different license. It's just once you're 21, you can use it to rent and drive a boat. It's kind of awesome, but kind of lame too because you don't get a lot of training. All right, driving while your license is invalid can cause them to suspend your license and make it take longer to get it back. Any kind of fake ID, changing your ID, lending your ID to someone, making fake ID, all of those can cause your real license to go away. Right? Evading arrest, they can take your license away. Not automatic, but it can. All right. Graffiti, that one's one of my favorites. If you get caught tagging up a building or a boxcar or an overpass, well, I hope it was worth it because you can lose your license and then you're going to have to walk all to the new places that you want to tag. You know, makes the neighborhoods a little more artistic. Now, having a fictitious ID for your vehicle, which is the license plate, registration certificate, or the sticker, is also against the law and can get you to lose your license. Okay? Fraudulent government records or racing on a public highway or street, that's an automatic as well. Why? Because as I showed y'all, you know, with that 50 mile an hour zone and little Billy running out into the road 250 feet ahead of you, when you choose to race on a public street or highway, you're choosing to put the lives and welfare of everyone sharing that roadway or that area with you in jeopardy. And they will take your license so fast and so hard for doing it. So don't race. Okay? Now, if you want to know if your car is faster than somebody else's, take it to a closed track. Pay some money, go race on a real racetrack. Right? Don't try to do it on public streets because if a minivan pulls out ahead of you and you're going 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, probably won't be able to stop in time. And, well, that's loss of life right there. That's jail time. Now, let's focus on these two, though. Because what's the difference between a DUI and a DWI? I'm sure you have all heard at least once in your life one of these two phrases, DUI or DWI. Okay. Now, most people think that DUI is referring specifically to drugs and DWI is alcohol. That's almost it, but not quite, because the reason all other drugs are classified as DUI is because there's no way to tell how stoned, how high, how tweaking, you know, how just generally messed up from huffing paint someone is, right? However, there is a way to tell exactly how much alcohol is in someone's system, all right? So what tool do the police officers use to measure this? They use the breathalyzer, sometimes called the intoxalyzer. And that's this little box, and they hand you a straw with 3 holes in it. It's 4 holes in it, 2 to clip it on there. One feeds into the thing, the other one goes straight out, and then the one that you blow into, and you're... until you've blown hard enough for at least 3 seconds. So that can take a few puffs, and if you're kind of messed up, that could make you faint right then and there, and then we'll, oh, look, they're unconscious. Now we have to take them in. But that tool lets them precisely measure your blood alcohol concentration, your BAC, and it goes from 0, as in you have 0 blood in your, or 0 alcohol in your blood, to 1. You have 100% alcohol in your veins. You have successfully turned yourself into Pickle Rick and died. Because, well, that's what happens when you replace all the blood in your veins with alcohol. Is death. Right? So, if you blow 0.01, that means 1% of your blood is alcohol. Very simple. Right? Well, 0.01 to 0.07, if it has impaired your ability to drive, is a DUI. A .08, regardless of whether or not it has impacted your ability to drive, is a DWI. Now, I'm just gonna, and I've never actually broken this down before, but I want y'all to understand, and I really need to be explaining this, right? If you drink as an adult, and let's say you have one drink is gonna put you on this scale. Now, if that one drink leaves you feeling fine and you're completely able to drive, no problem, you pass a field sobriety test, that's where they get you out of the car, make you say your ABCs backwards, stand on one foot, walk a straight line, things like that, right? If you can do that and you're not impaired, they don't have to give you the ticket for DUI. But with DWI, the second that you blow .08 or higher, well, you're going to jail. Right then and there. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you by the court. Do you understand these rights as I have explained them to you? You have the right to a translator. If you don't, right, yeah, they're going to start with that right away. Okay, .01 to .07 is subjective. If they believe that you are still crisp enough to successfully drive home, they can let you go, and they don't even have to give you the ticket. They could give you the ticket and let you go. They could give you no ticket and let you go. They could give you a warning and let you go. .01 to .07. .08 and above, you have the right to remain silent. You're going to get arrested, folks, so please, when you are old enough to drink, do not choose to drink and drive. All right? Now, unfortunately, these are just numbers on the screen, so let's give y'all some perspective, because that's what helps us make good judgment, right? Perspective. That's what that chef dude in Ratatouille asked for. He wanted some perspective. Or food critic, I should say. Now, alcohol affects everyone differently, but what it comes down to is the percentage of water in your body. All right, the more muscle mass you have, the more water you have in your body. That means you can have more alcohol before you feel the effects. Okay? Now, whoops, sorry, I missed an important statement. Come on, back one. There we go. Now, that's why if you take a male and a female that weigh the same, the female will get intoxicated faster because females have a higher fat content. Now, that's not us poking fun. We're talking just straight up distribution of what is called adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is that those fatty deposits, when we gain weight, that's where we gain our weight. Gentlemen, most of yours is on your thighs and your gut. All right, that's why you'll see dudes with skinny arms, but you know they look like, you know, some kind of like Digimon that needs to have a mouth across their belly, because they're just so round once they get out, right? That's where our adipose tissue is distributed. But when you're healthy and you're in good shape, well, even an individual with, you know, low body fat percentage, the adipose tissue distribution is still going to be greater on female because they have more parts that get curvy than guys do. That's just how biologically we're designed. So ladies, even if you weigh the same as someone else and you're in the same general shape, the gentleman will get intoxicated slower. All right. Now, that's not to say that you can't develop a tolerance. The scariest drinker I've ever seen is a woman, and she's on YouTube. Some Irish dudes that, and they're European friends that like to drink, and there's one woman in there that drank the strongest stuff ever and was like, "Oh, it's got a nice oaky aftertaste." And the first time I tried it, I was dying. Right. It's not saying women can't handle alcohol better, because she is hands down the best drinker I've ever seen, or the worst drinker I've ever seen. Depends on your outlook. All right, but just when, and that's about being crisp, not about BAC. Because when it comes to BAC, the only thing that matters is the amount of fat in your body, the amount of muscle in your body. That's why me being a big chunky guy, I probably don't process alcohol any better than somebody who weighs 160, 170 pounds, because I got way too much manteca on me. But this is how alcohol works. All right, let's assume you're a 200-pound male, and you have one drink. Your BAC is now at .02. Right, that's one drink. All right, more importantly though, what is one drink? All right, well, one drink could be beer. 12 ounces of beer is 5% alcohol by volume is one drink. Okay, well, Budweiser is one drink. Bud Light is 4.5% alcohol by volume, so it's slightly less than one drink. And then Bud Light Platinum is 6% alcohol by volume. So that's slightly more than 1 drink. And then Four Locos is 12% alcohol by volume. So on top of being 2.5 times the volume, or alcohol by volume, 2.5 times as much alcohol in the drink, Four Locos is also a 24-ounce can. So 1 Four Locos is enough to make you legally intoxicated. Just 1. But, you know, they're terrible, and if you choose to drink them, you know, don't. Ugh, gross, nasty. Okay. Now wine, 5 ounces of wine is 1 drink. Now, that means if you have a wine glass that has a bowl the same size as this can, only about this much of the bowl needs to be filled. So you can see. Only that bottom, like 1/3 of the bowl needs to be filled in order to get those 5 ounces. But people very often fill their glass well above what they're supposed to be. So you can't have more than 1 drink. Real Housewives of Atlanta, them ladies fill that glass up to the rim. That's enough to be legally intoxicated. Just 1 glass though, right? And then candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. Thank you, Mr. Willy Wonka. All right, so 1 1/4 ounces of liquor at 80 proof, and that's your standard tequila, whiskey, whatever, scotch, bourbon. Those are all whiskeys. I just like whiskey. Anyway, that's a shot glass. One of those little glasses that you see in the movies. They fill it up and you know, clang, and that's a shot. But that is 1 drink. 4 of those, 5 of those, could get you into some trouble. Right? Now, most people, unfortunately, when they're mixing their own drinks, they put more than 1 1/4 ounces. As a matter of fact, what's very common at quinceañeras and weddings is the Bucanas bottle on the table, and then we got my tío pouring himself a drink, and it's like glug, 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 and it's a glass like this big, and they're like glug, 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 and then they put in 1 ice cube and a little teeny splash of Coke, and now that glass is full, and 5 or 6 drinks, because they overpoured. Now, 200-pound man after 5 drinks will have a BAC of 0.09, which is above the legal limit, and therefore automatically you would get arrested if they caught you driving that way. Right? The biggest problem though is that's just the first glass. Right? Let's say that you've stopped on that first glass and now you have to leave, but your BAC is at 0.09. What do? Call an Uber, call a Lyft. Nah, I'm just going to sober up and drive myself. All right, so how do we sober up? All right, anybody heard any ways to sober up from movies, TV shows, relatives? Anybody ever heard any of the ways that people sober up? Eating, drinking, exercise, cocaine. None of them sober you up. You are still intoxicated. You are simply full. You simply have to really go to the bathroom. You want to throw up because you've been exercising. You're now hyper because you had a bunch of cocaine. But you're still drunk. Okay? That does not fix being drunk. Only one thing makes you not be drunk anymore. Time. You have to allow your body to process the alcohol. Because you don't actually digest alcohol. Digestion needs to start to get that stuff running through so that, you know, other parts of your body can process it for you, so it can be absorbed efficiently and then sent to the appropriate places. But sobering up requires time, and if you're healthy, you can subtract 0.015 off your BAC every 60 to 90 minutes. So if you waited about 6 hours, you'd be sober enough to go. Maybe not completely sober, but sober enough to go. Okay? Now, how many people do you know that have a couple of drinks and then drive? What is it that Hispanic families do on the weekends? We get together, we barbecue, drink some beer. Once the beer and the meat is gone, everybody leaves. Does everyone hang out at Abuelita's house for 10 hours to sober up? 6 hours to sober up? Nope. Hidalgo County is #1 in the state for DWI. Now, just to put that in a little perspective for y'all, Austin County, or the city of Austin, has 1 street that has 2.5 miles of bars. Like on that street, for 2.5 miles, Either the business on one side of the street or the other is a bar. And quite often, both. That is 6th Street in Austin. Very big party place. Austin also has a higher population than all of the Valley. And yet here in Texas, we're number 1. Okay. Why? Because Hispanic culture has normalized excessive drinking. Because just because you feel fine does not matter. BAC does not lie. Right? Sometimes you can have 1 beer, have a buzz, and other times you just have 5 and you just feel bloated and full and you're good to drive. But none of that matters because BAC is measurable. And if you are above 0.08, you're going to the pokey. Okay? Because what happens when you feel fine and forget your turn signal in front of the wrong cop on the wrong night? Woo! Pull over! Excuse me, sir, ma'am. Have you been drinking tonight? No! And then the fumes like leak out of your mouth and the cop's like, oh! What happens then? Well, if you are under the age of 21 and have any detectable amount of alcohol in your system, you had 1 drink of wine and you got in the car and you drove. Not even a full drink, like you had a swallow of wine because you wanted to try it, like a gulp, and then you got in the car and you drove. Even that little, you would be charged with driving under the influence of alcohol by a minor. Now, the thing is, folks, is that when they're talking about someone under the age of 21 and they're talking about criminal charges, minor is going to be in the answer. Minor is going to be part of the cause because the charge is very different for drinking, driving under the influence as an adult or a minor. Very different. And it has to be differentiated. There are different laws, therefore it has to be driving under the influence of alcohol by a minor because you are under the age of 21. Now, you may refuse to provide a breath or blood specimen to a police officer if you're under 21. However, your license will automatically be suspended for 180 days. 6 long, long months. If the officer is like, would you please blow into this breathalyzer? And you're like, heck no, I won't blow, because you know you're about to fail. Well, then you lose your license automatically for 180 days. Now, however, if a driver under 21, their driver's license may be suspended for the first offense of driving while intoxicated. You blow and you come up with a 0.01, 1% alcohol, you would be losing that license for 180 days to 2 years. That's a long time to not have your driver's license. If that happened to you when you were 18, you'd almost be old enough to drink when you got your license back. That is a long time not to be driving. So what's the number one thing to do? Don't drink and drive. Okay? And people will tell you millions of times, but you have to want to listen to that. All right? Now, the worst offense a driver 21 or over can be charged with for operating a motor vehicle in a public place under the influence of alcohol or drugs and causing the death of another by accident or mistake is intoxication manslaughter. You got drunk, you got behind the wheel of a car, and you killed somebody. Now you're going to go to jail for a maximum of 7 years. And intoxication manslaughter typically has the maximum fine, has the maximum sentence. Good behavior, 3.5 years. All right. Now, if you try to fight this in court and your lawyer is so amazing that they get rid of the intoxication, well, manslaughter has involuntary manslaughter has a maximum sentence of 15 years. So take your intoxication manslaughter and go with it, because you could wind up going to jail for 15 years or 7.5 for good behavior. Okay. Don't drink and drive. Say it again. All right. Now, what is carbon monoxide and how may be it harmful to drivers? Well, carbon monoxide is the product of combustion. It is an odorless, colorless gas that may lead to unconsciousness or death. It's found in your car exhaust and all other smoke caused by stuff burning. Right? You want to make sure you start your car in a well-ventilated area, because people die from inhalation of carbon monoxide. As a matter of fact, if you've ever seen a movie or a TV show where a house is on fire and they pull people out and everyone gets that blanket around the shoulders and a mask on, it's not because they're concerned that they were cold. It's because carbon monoxide inhalation can lead to shock. That's why the blanket. Okay? And the easiest way to eliminate carbon monoxide from a healthy system is to breathe in pure oxygen. Well, our atmosphere has very little pure oxygen available to us, and pure oxygen itself is flammable, so you'd have to go to a hospital or get a paramedic to get you some nice clean air to push it out of your system. So if you're warming up your car in a closed garage every day and you're sitting in there every day, you're giving yourself a small dose of carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, that in and of itself isn't a big issue. But what happens when the next day comes around? Because carbon monoxide is kind of like arsenic. It stays in your system for a really long time and may start at non-fatal levels, but can build up before your body's able to get rid of it to fatal levels. And then you die. And then you just fall asleep, your car keeps running, and you never wake up, right? But aside from that, on those cold days when you are warming that car up in the garage, what if you got your fur buddies in there? What if you got the cat or the dog in the garage and you got that garage closed so that they're not as cold? Well, if you're running the vehicle with them in there as well, you're subjecting them to the same dose of carbon monoxide poisoning, if not more than you, because they're lower to the ground. They may be directly breathing the exhaust in, right? But their exposure is going to build up too. But since their weight is probably way less than yours, it's going to kill them faster. All right. So please, folks, always start your car in a well-ventilated area. Do not run a vehicle inside a building. If y'all ever saw that Karate Kid show, the Cobra Kai one, that the kid in the first season gets yelled at for running the car while the customers were in there, that's because of the possibility of carbon monoxide poisoning. I mean, it would have taken minutes, but that's still unhealthy and not good for their customers. All right. So always start your car in a well-ventilated area to ensure that nobody accidentally experiences carbon monoxide poisoning. All right, because it will kill you. I mean, people have, and that's why like parking garages and stuff always have open access so that air can flow through, and they have ventilation that sucks the air out of there to prevent buildups of these toxic gases. Right? It's just how they're built. Look at the ones, at the local malls, if they've got those upstairs parking things. Anyway, describe what you should do if you have a blowout while driving. Now, a blowout is a sudden loss of air pressure to your tire pops while you're driving. This is the only time we actually use our brakes. Now, we still don't slam on the brakes. What we do instead is we take our foot off the gas and we gently apply the brakes. You're going to push the brake and you're just going to barely push it. And once you feel that it's starting to brake, you're good. You just hold it there. Okay? Because we just want to slow our vehicle down a little bit faster than it's doing naturally. All right? Get yourself off to the side of the road, steer straight ahead to a stop, and have your emergency lights on as soon as it happens. Like, boom! Emergency lights. Foot off the gas. Lightly pressing the brake until it's barely starting to work, and then let me just get myself off this roadway. Okay? Emergency lights, and of course, always do your checks before changing lanes. That way, you don't get hit. But emergency lights so that everyone else understands, hey, I'm experiencing an emergency. Now, what should you do if you damage an unattended vehicle? Run away quickly! No, you don't do that, because if you do, that's hit and run, right? And whereas you may not have been responsible for the damages, because damages need to be above a certain threshold before the law will hold you responsible, $1,000, I believe. If you run away, even if it is minor damages, without doing what you need to do, that's hit and run, and you could lose your license. Don't want to do that, folks. All right, so if you hit an unattended vehicle, locate the owner or the operator of the unattended vehicle and provide them a name and phone number of the operator of the owner that struck the vehicle that was unattended. In other words, give them your name, your number, and your insurance information. All right. If you cannot find them, then leave a securely attached visible note providing that information, your name, your address, a phone number, and your insurance information. Now, it's also smart to file a police report, especially if you do lots of damage, because you'll both need to file a police report in order to get the insurance paperwork to take care of it. right? If it's minor damage, you want to file the police report. They're not going to arrest you. They're not going to give you a ticket. You're just doing what you're supposed to, so that if the note disappears from that person's car, you know, some salty punk sees the note and like, hey, nobody ever left me a note when they hit my car, and just throws it away. Well, now you've already filed a report with the police department. They already know what happened, and now they're not going to come after you for a hit and run when the other person's like, hey, they didn't leave a note. And the cop's like, yeah, he left the note. I was right there when he left the note. I saw what the note said. Right. Now, what qualifications must one have to teach someone with a learner license to drive? Right? And that is very simply going to be, you have to be a licensed operator who is at least 21 years of age or older, sitting in the front seat, paying attention, not on your phone, not on YouTube, actually helping the person drive. That is what an individual must do to teach someone with a learner license to drive. All right, now that's the last question we're going to go through. We will have plenty of time at the end of, or tomorrow, to finish up all these questions. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take us, Mr. Salceda, did we get that assignment sheet list up? Awesome. Thank you, buddy. Let me refresh so it'll jump to the top of the page. All right, so. Boom. There we go. All right, so here we are in the September 26th through October 15th Teen Drive Education live stream, or feed. All right, so here is the assignment sheet link. Okay. Now, this link is updated once a day, Monday through Friday. All right, because we're going to issue out the DPS exams this weekend, Mr. Salcedo will be making an additional check on Saturday. That is not normal. He's not going to check on Sunday. He's not going to check multiple times. He's going to check once. Noon again? Yeah. All right, right around noon on Saturday. So if you have assignment 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 done by 12 p.m., that's noon, on Saturday, you will receive your DPS written exam link to the email address provided at the time of registration. Okay? Now, this thing's super easy to use. You're going to come here, you're going to see assignment sheet link, and you're going to click on it. All right, you can watch the video for a repeat of the instructions or slightly different instructions made by my boss. But let's take a look here, right here, and we've got Andre Guzman. All right, and Andre has done assignments 1 and 2. That is why day 3 is where his line starts. All right, and it's going to be like that for everybody. All right, when you do an assignment, the number will be taken away. You have not gotten number 3 yet because today is day 3. When I post the assignment, tomorrow, sometime between 10 a.m. and noon, Mr. Salcedo will check. Everyone that's done the assignment by then will be given credit for it. If you do not get credit for it that day, you'll get it credit for it the next day. If you have not received credit for something after 2 days, please let us know you did not receive credit. We'll go ahead and get that fixed during the live stream. All right? Or message us through the webpage at hdzdrive.com. All right? But everyone has this list right here. 1 through 15, DPS exam in the middle, and final exam at the end. All right? The location that you have there is the location you would pick up your certificate. So if you registered through our FAR office, you'll pick up your certificate in our FAR office. If you registered through Weslaco, you'll pick up your certificate in Weslaco. Right? Once you have paid for the course in full and passed the DPS written exam, we will provide you a certificate of completion. Doesn't mean you completed Teen Driver's Ed. It means that you completed the written exam and you passed it. Okay? You take that and the other stuff on a packet that we're going to go ahead and provide you with a list of everything you need to take with you. You take all that stuff down to DPS. They give you a license. They check your eyes. They stand you in front of a thing. They say, look at the camera, and then they take the worst picture they can. They derive glee from this. I'm convinced. All right, folks. So that's all you have to do to check the assignment sheet list. Now, the names are in alphabetical order, so you have to know how to use alphabetical order. That's all right. It's not real tough. You know your ABCs. It does go by your first name. I'm seeing. Yeah, it's going by the first name this time. So whatever the letter your first name is, jump to that area on the letters, and you will find your thing. All right. Once you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 done, that's it. You have completed your requirements to get the DPS exam, and we will get that sent to you. But you do need to complete all 16 assignments. Okay? You need to complete the DPS exam and all 16 of the daily assignments in order to receive credit for having completely finished this course and be allowed to schedule your drives. Right? Because those 7 drives that y'all have to get done, once again, you have to schedule them. It's your responsibility. Welcome to adulthood. No one's going to do it for you. Now, on the bright side, that means we won't schedule you for a time that you possibly couldn't make it and then fine you for not showing up. You have to tell us when you can, and I'll show you how to do that sometime next week and again the day after that. Now, on the assignment sheet list, if you do see that your name is, do we not have that set up right now yet? The contracts. That's right. All right, so we're going to get some colors thrown in, and if your name winds up getting highlighted in yellow, we're still pending a contract from you. All right, to get that contract completed, if you haven't already done it, all you have to do is go to our website, hdzdrive.com. Let me go back to here. All right, and then you're going to go right here. Let me see all the way up to the top. Now you see right here, like it says on ours, office heads, because that's how we're logged into this. All right, but it will have your name because that's how you're logged into it. You'll click that little down, that wide V next to that. That's called a down chevron. And those of you in ROTC probably already knew that. But you click on the down chevron, and then you go down here and you click on contracts. Right? You click on contracts on that little pop-up, and that will take you directly to the contracts. And everything reloads. Right? And then you just need to fill out this first one, team course contract. Get that thing filled out, continue until it's all done, and you are good to go. All right? And that's it. All right? So if you see your name pop up on yellow on the assignment sheet list, that's what you got to do. If you want further instruction, the video just below the assignment sheet list will remind you how to check it. Nice and simple, folks. All right? But that is our time today. Everyone, every day make the world a better place, but first do no harm. Every day, make that choice, make that decision, make that change in your life to take you one step closer to the person you want to be, the life you want to live, or quite simply just, prepare yourself for that future that you want. If you know you're going to need to have a skill for the career that you want, start picking up that skill now, all right? The choices that we make to improve ourselves and improve how we interact with the world around us is going to make the world a better place, folks. Right? And that power to change, you can change almost anything about yourself. Anything that you do or any way that you think you can fix. I know, because I've done it. I used to be a monster. I was a terrible person. I think I'm all right now. All right, but still working. All right? So, bye everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today was day 3 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Drive Way, and tomorrow's going to be day 4. We're going to finish up with this Texas DPS review. All right, I'll go over the assignment sheet list one more time for those of you that still have questions, and then any questions that any of y'all might have tomorrow, I'll be more than happy to answer. On Friday when we get together, we're going to post up the day 5 assignment right before class starts, and we're all going to do it together during the live stream video. All right, so be on a device or have 2 devices so you can have the assignment open on one and you can be watching the live stream on the other if you're not capable of doing that normally. All right, I don't know how awesome your phones are. Mine sucks. I can't have the 2 windows. All right, but bye everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel for day 4 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Deuces, folks.